Aneta, it's so beautiful to meet you, to connect with you. Thank you for coming along to our podcast today. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Oh, Claire, I'm so excited to be here. I love your podcast. I love all the topics that you're covering. And I'm so excited just to see where our conversation goes today.
Yes, me too. So I think that well, I already know that we've got so much in common, and I'm sure our conversation will stretch to so many different areas of life because we're both mothers, we're both entrepreneurs, we
Yes.
both love tools for spirituality and or for sort of not necessarily tools for spirituality, but really tools to help us align, to help us calm, to help us manifest and create magic in our lives. So
Yes.
I would love to hear from you your story about how you really came across the importance of using these tools, how they've really helped you to shift and change and transform yourself and your life, and the flow-on effect that that has to your family. Where would you like to start with that?
Yeah, no, it's such a great place to start. I'll say, my background is I felt like I spent most of my life before the age of 45 really working to within the confines of what society tells us the success looks like. All the things you grow up, you think, okay, let's go to the right school and let's, find a good job and then continue to do that, start your family. And then there's like a huge block of time in between and then retirement. And then you figure out what to do then. And it always felt in the middle of it when we work so quickly at a fast pace, you don't really have a lot of time to think. But, later in life, I just felt like this isn't probably where I want to be. And so I started discovering things. I would say when my kids were small, I discovered yoga. I started practicing every day because as a working mother and also trying to balance my own mental health and physical health and energy levels as a mom, yoga was just something that I could do just for myself. It allowed me to spend the time just by myself in the morning in my home, self practice, home practice, when everyone else was asleep. And so it felt just like a date with myself, which I didn't have
Mm.
much time to myself. And that was the first time I noticed this thing called alignment, where I just felt like in the moment, my breath, my mind, my body, spirit, everything was so connected. And it's this beautiful stillness, right? That is just magical. And so I try to continue to find ways to recreate that during my corporate career, and I started discovering meditation, which was another wonderful way as my job became more stressful and the kids grew up and there are other challenges I was going through. Meditation was really a great way for me to quiet and to allow myself to observe the thoughts and the fears and things that maybe were present that sometimes we distract ourselves away from. And then,
Mhm.
of course, at the age of 45, I hired a coach and really set forth to design the life that I wanted going forward in my life, knowing that I probably wasn't going to retire from banking.
Beautiful. I love so much about the story that you shared. I'm curious as to, so you started yoga when your kids were little, and when you're working, you've got young kids, time
Yeah.
is feels like it's a squash. Was it
Yes.
easy for you to dedicate that, maybe wake up early and decide
Yeah.
to go have that date time with yourself? Or was it something that you needed to really overcome lots of your own, like, sort of limiting self-talk around? Like, how did you
Mhm.
decide to carve out that time? Because that in itself is huge, and it's almost like that decision that you made then is what was
Yes.
the first sort of step into this whole new area of your life that you've ended up creating
Absolutely.
for yourself.
Yeah, it's such a great question. Luckily, I am a morning person. So I
Mm.
always knew that my energy was strongest first thing in the morning. So when I was practicing yoga before work, I woke up at 4:30. I knew that that was my only time that I could commit to myself. And so that's what I did. And then once I discovered how I felt, then I wasn't going to give it up. Then I was like, okay, I will try to make sure I get to sleep after the kids go to sleep, and really be disciplined about my sleep to get the amount of hours I needed, because I knew that I wanted to wake up in the morning. The days I practiced versus if I had to skip a day or something happened, I just didn't feel right. My energy was off. I
Yes.
didn't feel that everything else worked out, and I just felt like the yoga helped me be a better mom, a better wife, a better employee all around.
Mm.
And I still love practicing first thing in the morning. Like, that is definitely the time that I enjoy. I call it my date with the divine every morning,
Oh,
and I look
love
forward
that.
to it so much.
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
like that date with the divine in you, isn't it? Really, it's really
Yes.
getting to know that strength and the beauty and
Yes.
the joy and the wisdom that lies within
Hmm.
you. And there's something really powerful and magical about doing it first thing in the morning and having
Hmm.
that the way that you set up your day, because like you say, it flows into your day. And most of all, you really notice it on the days that you don't do it once you've started that regular
Yes.
practice, which I think reinforces the power of doing it.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
true. I mean, in yoga, we learned that the morning hours, 4 to 6 a.m., are the most auspicious. It is
Mm.
definitely the time where you just wake up and things are so quiet, and you are able to align, because, I try not to look at devices and not, consume someone else's agenda before I set my own for the day. And so that's why, meditation and breath work and yoga are just so important to me, to set my and morning pages and other things as well. But just important, as you said, to set the agenda, to align, and then, set that intention for the rest of the day. Makes a huge
Mm.
difference.
Yes, for sure. So now that you've developed your spiritual toolbox, what does your morning
Yeah.
routine look like now, if you'd like to share?
Oh, I'd love to share. I wake up at 4:30. It definitely is the time that feels most natural for me. And I wake up, I make a good cup of coffee, and I read. I love to fill my mind with positive thoughts. I read from certain books that, align to what it is that I'm working on for myself. And then I come into my office and I have a meditation altar. I spend some time, I light a candle because I love rituals. It just feels
Mm.
like the muscle memory of it just feels so beautiful to be able to
Yes.
to do these little steps. I might draw a card, a beautiful spiritual card to read, and with an intention, and then I meditate. I try to do about 20 minutes of meditation and breath work every morning,
Mm.
and then I'll love to do my morning pages. I know Julia Cameron would say we should do morning pages first, but sometimes it's just nice for me to just sit and be reflective and quiet. Other times I'll do
Mm.
that first, but I tend to used to sit first. And after I write, then I actually I teach yoga and meditation. So around 6:45, I do a yoga class that I facilitate and a meditation group,
Wow.
and then I exercise for myself after that, and then usually by 9 I'm seeing clients and doing work. Yeah, but I love my
Mm.
morning. Like, I just feel like um, it's almost like a full day before 9 o'clock, and if with all the stuff that I enjoy, which is a gift. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes, it is. There's
Yeah,
so much packed into there. Can you just
yeah,
briefly explain what the morning pages are for anyone who's
sure.
listening and is like, what is that? I haven't come across it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so Julia Cameron wrote a book called The Artist's Way, and it's probably over 25 years old now, maybe close to 30 years old. And she's amazing. She wrote a book and that talks about how to remove creative blocks. And one of the tools in the toolbox for the artist is to do something called morning pages, in which you write longhand 3 pages. And it's basically just like a brain dump. It is just, you don't censor yourself, you don't read it, you don't edit it. It really is just allowing things to come through you. And I think she
Mm.
talks about allowing us to be the vessel and allowing the muse of the divine, or whatever it is that you want to call it, spirit, working through you. And it really is so helpful. I love doing it, one, because I do love just the act of doing it, because once it, and some days you're writing what you're thinking about or what you dreamt, and it could be just nonsense. And other days, after doing that for a little bit, it's almost like you get unstuck and suddenly there might be some goodness there, and there might be
Yes.
something to use. And that's actually how I ended up writing my book too, was because I think the practice of writing the morning pages every day gave me the discipline then to sit and to write for a couple hours every morning, and with a sense of non-judgment but also discipline at the same time.
Mm. Yes,
Mm.
that part of non-judgment is such an important piece, isn't it? And I think that,
Yes.
and that's such an important part, awareness to bring into any kind of journaling practice, is to just
Mhm.
let it flow. And I imagine
Yes.
in the order that you do it, there's, because you're getting up, you're drinking your coffee, you're
Yeah.
pulling a card, you're lighting your candle, you're doing some meditation, then you're doing your writing. There will be a lot of pieces that will have already fallen away, and then a lot, you've
Yeah.
kind of almost, as you're aligning through the meditation and the other beautiful practices that you do, you're already in that kind of aligned,
Yeah.
peaceful space, and the
Mhm.
flow from that onto the paper would, I imagine, be beautiful. But then some days we just have days where it's like, meh, I've got nothing to say, even when we do all our
Yes.
practices. And it's such an
Yes.
important piece, isn't it, to be non-judgmental to ourselves and not have those expectations of, oh my gosh, I've got to write something divinely inspired and brilliant every single morning.
It's so true, Claire. And on days where I feel like it's harder, and there are days where it's much more difficult to write, I'll use a
Mm.
prompt. I sometimes have prompts, like I will just say, what am I most grateful for? Or what's something that I'm really proud of over the last week, or who do I want to be? How do I want to show up today? It could just be a prompt that I've used over and over again that sometimes allows me to direct my writing in a way that I feel like is productive, instead of saying I
That's
don't
great.
have anything to say, or it's raining outside, and sometimes our thoughts will go amok, and just a prompt sometimes is just enough to just to kind of guide me in a way that feels a bit more productive.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so did that practice and that those prompts must have really served you so well as you were writing your book. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the process of writing your book, getting kind of out of the way of those kind of
Yeah.
limiting beliefs that, and imposter syndrome and all that sort of thing that can come up when
Hmm.
we are birthing something into the world in this way. So
Yeah.
yeah, was that something that came up for you, or did it just start to sort of, did you just realize, oh my gosh, what I'm writing is a book? What was that kind of process like for you?
Yeah, so I've always, like many people, wanted to write a book. So I've always kept lists of bucket lists and things that I dream log and all of those things. And I always said I wanted to write, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to write about.
Mm,
And then I had my sort of a big birthday coming up. So last year I turned 50. And so I thought, you know what? I think it would be really nice to have a book, to write a book during my 50th year. And
wow.
so what I did is the October preceding, I guess that would have been 2021, um, I really asked myself, what book do I want to write? Like, what would I want to read? And so for me in the morning, I mentioned that I like to read things that are positive, that are inspiring, that sort of give me an opportunity to set an intention that is,
Mm,
helpful. And I found myself reading the same books over and over again, right? The Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie, and Simple Abundance. And so, but I read those books for several years now, and I haven't really found many daily devotionals, like meditation ones, that in the last few years. And so I said, I would love a book where people could just keep it on their keep it on their nightstand, or maybe keep it next in
mm,
their kitchen when they're making their morning coffee. Something that they could read first thing in the morning or right before they go to sleep, that makes them feel that much better, that gives them something to reflect on, and maybe with a little journal prompt or a challenge. So when I asked myself what I wanted to read, then I started writing the book that I wanted. And I thought, if I want to read this, then I know my clients would benefit from something like this, because all of us have bookshelves full of self-help books. I love them. I
mm,
read them all the time. What I see my clients struggling with on the coaching side is that applying the lessons and taking
Yes.
daily action and creating the routine and just
Yes.
making small bits of traction every day in the direction you want to go in. So I wrote a book called Live the Width of Your Life, and
I
it
love
does
that
have
title.
300, thank you,
Yeah.
365 daily meditations. And I structured it where each month there's a theme. So January is new beginnings and dreaming again.
Mm.
February, self-service, playing on the Valentine's Day idea of love, self-love and service. March is courage. So I really looked at seasonal themes and
So good.
also an order that I thought would make sense as someone was on their transformation path. And then by the end of the year, if you do this every single day, you should have seen transformative change. You should have
Mm.
experienced growth in each of these areas. And I really tried to incorporate themes that I noticed in coaching that people were struggling with and things that we typically covered, and in a way that was very small, bite-sized, simple. So it just delights me when people say they're reading it or they have a favorite passage or say, gosh, today's really made an impact on me. Thank you. That just makes me feel
So
so good.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
so once I decided kind of how to arrange it, then it was I created a project plan for myself, and I said, all right, you're writing at least five posts a day because I had a time frame I wanted to complete it within, and you're not getting up. So that's where the morning pages really helped. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm writing at least 5 pages. I can always edit it so they don't have to be perfect, and that releasing that sort of pressure was helpful.
Mm.
And some days I just got into flow and, I might have 20 pages worth or 20, it just was amazing to see what would happen every single day.
That's so beautiful. I love that you just allowed yourself to get into that magic and into the flow and
Mm-hmm.
out of
Yeah.
your own way and let it happen. And so, a part of people starting to practice self-care,
Yeah.
meditation, is this mindset block and this social limitation that, especially for women, that
Mm.
self-care and self-love is selfish, that we need to
Yeah.
be seen to, or we should be giving to everybody else in our lives first
Yeah.
before we give to
Yes.
ourselves. And a lot of people know that it would help if they did some
Mhm.
things for themselves, especially first. In their day, they might have
Yes.
had experiences of maybe going for a walk and that felt really nice, but then the demands of life, of our work, of our children, of running a household can feel so important. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that you've created this as little baby steps, because
Yeah.
taking these little steps is such a powerful way. And one little step day by day, at the end of the year, it's incredible where we can get to, isn't it? So I love that you've
Yes.
incorporated that into your book. And how have you noticed that clients and people that have read your book have overcome that limiting belief, and that, and especially even if they've been so used to, in their family dynamics, if their family has been used to
Mm-hmm.
them being the one that does everything, how have you noticed
Yeah.
that that kind of thing has shifted for them and in their family dynamics and in their work
Mm-hmm.
production?
Well, the beauty is that it doesn't take long to read one page and to spend
Mm.
time journaling on it. And what I love hearing from my clients is that they're reading it with their partners. And so I had one,
Oh.
yes. And so they'll read it with their partners, or a particular day then will become a topic of conversation at dinner. And so many people have reached out to say, we've always talked about going to Greece, and guess what? We actually are booking a trip this June because today you said that we should do this. Or someone will say, today this inspired, even my own daughter called and said, you know what? You inspired me to start my own online vintage shop. And, she works full time, but it was just something that was a prompt. And that just
Mm.
brings me such delight because we know these things, they're in their minds already. Sometimes you just need a little prompt or reminder from someone else to spark that.
Yes.
And going back to what you said before, I was that person. When I worked full time and I was raising children, I was in grad school and all of this, I was burned out. I was not the best version of myself. I would say I was the worst version. And
Mm.
that, one third, I think, of the population is burned out right now. And it's a huge population over in the entire world of people that have experienced, I think at least 75% or more have experienced it at least once during their work life. So it's very
It's
common.
huge, isn't
And
it? It's a
it's
real,
huge.
yeah.
And the average person is awake 1,000 minutes a day. And so when my clients tell me they don't have time, I say, tell me out of 1,000 minutes that you don't have 30 minutes for yourself and explain to me how that makes sense. We forget that we have time. We waste it. We waste a lot of time. And when we put the time into ourselves first, it just seems to multiply for me. I just feel like everything is that much easier when I
For
commit to
sure.
it. Right? Yeah, it's
Yes.
amazing. I don't know how it works. There's
Yes.
magic in that. But
There
and
is.
over time, it compounds. Like you said, at the end of the
Yes.
year, 1% better compounds over
Yeah.
the year, and you're a different person.
Absolutely. And it's about that, I think that getting into that alignment, and when we're in that flow,
Yeah.
things just do. We attract synchronicities, we, speak to people, and then they just tell us the answer that we've been like wanting to, but the
Yes.
question that we've had in our mind, they just answer it, or they, connect us with someone that does. And so spending that 30 minutes, absolutely, like you say, it's incredible
Yeah.
how that just allows so much more flow through the day, rather than us going through the day feeling disjointed, and then we're distracted by social media or emails, or the demands of external life, that there's so many now.
Yes.
There's just such incredible magic in finding that 30 minutes. And for a lot of people, if we go and look at our phones, most people's phones now will give us a summary of how much time we've spent. I don't know if it's something you have to switch
Yes.
on specifically or not, but to do that and just look at daily how much time, and over the week, even the
Oh,
hours that we
hours.
spend just looking at our devices, and our brain can kind of convince us that it's something that's important to do. But actually, if we just try out these other things, like your
Yeah.
meditations, other practices, even just a short breathing practice in the morning to start with,
Yes.
to work towards
Yes.
the 30 minutes, it's incredible the changes that we can experience, isn't it?
Completely. And Claire, the other thing too, I notice with women especially, and male clients too, we don't give ourselves grace to do less. Sometimes we set such ambitious goals for everything. And so one of the things that I work with my clients is I say, I want you to create a routine if you only have 5 minutes, and then create a routine for 15 minutes, then maybe one for your ideal, whether that's 30 or an hour, 45 minutes. And then I just want you to show up for yourself every day. So if you've got 5 minutes, maybe you're doing, squats or push-ups while you're waiting for your coffee. Maybe you're closing your eyes
Yes.
and you're taking 3 deep breaths. Maybe you are reciting 5 positive affirmations for yourself between meetings, or you're increasing your water, whatever it is. And when they create these things, and I tell them, it's like 3 tiers, but don't put a zero, and then don't feel guilty that you're not doing anything. Show up and then honor yourself and say, you know what? I celebrate that today. I took some steps, I stretched, maybe, it took some deep breaths. All of those things, if we recognize them, are impactful. But we often don't recognize the little steps that we make. We think that it has to be huge and monumental, and then we beat ourselves up. And I think that's part of the challenge, is that we just have to give ourselves the grace.
Absolutely. And I love how you shared about celebration as well. I'm a really big advocate for
Yeah.
self-celebration, because we
Yes.
don't stop to celebrate the small steps enough. We sort of, in fact, sometimes it's even, for some people, don't even stop to celebrate the big things. But when we
That's
celebrate
right.
ourselves,
Mhm.
it teaches our brain that this is a good thing. We want more of this in our lives. And then it becomes, we don't have as
Yes.
many mental barriers or excuses to not do these things. We start
Yes.
to integrate it so much more easily into our lives. It's really
Mhm.
powerful.
Mhm. Yeah. And also, that's why I love doing reflections in the evening. I don't know if you do that
Mm,
before you go to sleep, but when you do the evening reflections and you say, gosh, I'm really grateful for these three things that happened, or I'm really grateful that I had this amazing conversation with Claire, whatever it is, then we are intentional about celebrating. And so it's
yes.
just a small thing. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's just a new habit, but I love
Yes.
doing that because it's so nice to go to sleep and say, "Wow, it was a great day today."
Yes, going to sleep with our hearts full, being in that gratefulness of
Yes.
life is how I love
Yes.
to feel gratitude. It's like really just expanding into that, the fullness of the lives that we have. And it's such a beautiful way to end our day and then to wake up with that beautiful intention and that space and that alignment for ourselves
Yes.
is just also so powerful.
Hmm.
Aneta, I have loved every second of our conversation today. It's been a whole like ritual in itself. It's been
Oh
really
gosh, me
beautiful.
too.
Thank you. Yes. So
Thank
please
you.
tell us more about where we can find you online and your book. Where can people get your book from so that they can stay
Absolutely.
connected with you?
I'll make it very easy. If you go to AnetaKuzma.com, which will include the link, you'll find access to my book, which is available on Amazon. I also have a podcast under the same name, Live the Width of Your Life. And you can learn more about all the classes that I have to offer: meditation, breathwork, yoga, and coaching as well. I love being able to bring all of these modalities together and customize what works best for folks. So, a lot of free services as well for your audience, so they can take a look at that.
So perfectly aligned with our audience and with what
Yeah.
so many people need in our world right now. So thank you for your beautiful work. Thank you for your presence and your time today. It's just been such a delight to meet you.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you for doing the great work and being a light in this world. We need every single one of us to do the same thing. Thank you.
Yes, likewise.